I figured out what to talk about. This is a very good setting, I'm starting to realize. It's a very good setting. You can kind of see half of where I work. Here. A little bit of it. Some filing cabinet in the way, but you can't see it. And then, what's it called? Whiteboard. Whiteboards and shit behind me. I think it adds, I guess. I should have like a, sit like this, and like in this corner here, have things pop up. And that's the thing that we're going to talk about, you know, like, I don't know. Maybe eventually, but I think it'd be a good idea to kind of discuss a little bit the, how would I even word this? Like, how to create something artistically. It's a very general term because we're going to be talking very generally as much as we can. Until we find a good rhythm, then we'll go into a thing. So, if there's anything that could be taken from these videos, it would be the art of fucking bullshitting until you do it hard enough. And riffing, really. And then you finally go like, oh, here we go, we'll talk about this now. Because that's all I do. I wish I'd planned better, but I don't. I just hit record and just start going. I think that discussing something about how things in life have influenced you into whatever your art is, but we'll just kind of stay with what I know, so that'll be the book. Because I can do that thing where I keep getting like, and then maybe if you're a painter, you could, you know, like, and then I'll just lose it. So I'm going to kind of talk about it, but understand that this can be related to any form of artistic creation or whatever, you know. So I'm looking around the world and seeing things that allow you influence for what you create. And then there'll be another one where we'll talk about I just forgot it. It just jumped out of my head. Something about like your viewpoints on it. I don't remember. We'll see if we can get to that. When I think back at some of the things that I've made in the book, some like stories or cultural things, lore, anything else really that's got some sort of substance in the book, I try to think about like, where did that come from? Like, where does anything really come from? And generally everything you do, I mean, some people find it to be demoralizing, but it's an inevitable fact, and it should not be demoralizing, is there's nothing that you could ever make that's original, right? I think, you know, you hear that a lot. And there's truth to it. But that's kind of the point, honestly, I'm thinking of in life, because as a human race, we all have this consciousness. God damn. And then it could be collective consciousness, or it could be the individual, like, subjective consciousness. When you look at what other people create, you can find yourself seeking an interest in it. So for me, like, it would be history, mythology, aspects of spirituality, and I don't even know how to really explain, just like human stories, a human connection, just lived experiences, and just life in general. Now, looking at it that way, you're never really going to find something original, and I don't think you should. The originality will become through in the way that you express it, say it, or like shine a light on it, whatever it may be, like whatever you're talking about. If you're talking about like a situation where, you know, you don't like this aspect of human beings, you shine a light on it, and in your own way, something like that, you know. I think with art like that, that's kind of your job. You know, originality, I don't really know if that exists. I don't know if it ever did exist. You know, we like to think that in the past 100 years, like, how much has been said? How much has been talked about, shown, how much has been filmed, fucking video games, like, shit, I mean, culturally, as a human race, like, how much have we done in the past 100 years that feels like we've done it all? You know? musically? Like how many, like there's only a certain amount of notes, but at what point are you going to run into the same melody again? Using, you know, even, I'm using diminished chords, and I'm using augmented this and that, and I'm still noticing it sounds like this. Like, there's a reason to that. I'm kind of beating around the bush to this, and I'll continue until I get to the center. We are looking at life through our own eyes. And because of that, the issue is we like to try to be different. It's like built in you to kind of stand out in a way. I mean, you could even say it's something to do with like an animal instinct of attracting a mate in some sense. Like, you know, the animals, you watch them long enough, you'll see them do. Like, what do you have that a potential mate would want? So it's kind of a built-in ability, but at the end of the day, we're talking about human culture. And the best culture is borrowing from another. I think if you really look at the best things that were made, and I wish I could give a bunch of examples, you know, this will be the time where you pause it and I'd look up and research and then tell you. But we're only doing in the moment shit. We don't do the edited videos anymore. None. The only things I can really think about is like, you look at Star Wars and look at everything that it borrowed from. The movies, just maybe not just the lore and the mythology of it or the spirituality aspects and stuff, like the things that were created after the original three. Kind of go back to the original stories and you kind of see similarities of things borrowed. I remember them talking about the movie The Hidden Fortress, that Japanese movie. Yamamoto? I don't remember the name of the director, but George was talking about that. His talking about being influenced by Joseph Campbell. Now, Joseph Campbell was the one who kind of really took all the myths and legends around the world and started to talk about them being almost unified in some sense, one way or another. George Lucas was heavily influenced by that, and so thusly he created a whole thing. But when you look at Star Wars, you can still see forever influence in every little detail. Like everything you do is borrowed from something else, borrowed from something else, borrowed from something else. Like, for instance, me. There are aspects in the story that I'm borrowing from Dragon Age, a video game. Not really on purpose, but you just like the idea of it. Or you're borrowing a little bit from Star Wars, a little bit from Lord of the Rings, you're borrowing a little bit from this, a little bit from that. Real mythology. You yourself will see those aspects. You'll notice, like, damn it, I'm like making this, and that's so fucking Mass Effect or something. You know what I mean? Some sort of understanding, that's Mass Effect. Or like, damn, that's totally fucking Lord of the Rings right there. Or whatever else it would be. You can see that. There will be people that can notice that, but when you compile things and you constantly just build this thing up with other aspects of people's work, things that you admire, things that you want to explore a little bit more yourself, because that's the biggest thing too, is just exploration of thoughts, exploration of someone else's ideas. Like, how much further can you go here? From small ones to like somebody's video game story. You know, like, this would be so niche. You'd have to know, but whatever. Like, in Mass Effect, if you think the Krogan and the Genophage thing, and you think to yourself, like, I want to explore that even more than they did. You're kind of going with someone else's idea, but at the same time, you're taking it to a place that you understand. And it could be as large as, like, for me, real fucking mythology that people worship and pray to, like the ancient Greeks with their gods. I'm saying, how much further can I take who those gods are? And that's like, you know what I mean? Like, that can be a big thing. Like, you could even do it with religion and stuff. Like, and we do it all the time with fake stories. And I always get nonfiction and fiction confused, but I know it's fiction is fictitious. So, like, a fictitious story about a priest in the Catholic Church. It's kind of based on real things, and it could be based on real experiences, it could be based on real ideas, and lived experience, I should say, and then at the same time, expressions of, like, how I felt, like, because of my priest that I had way back in 1976, and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's technically someone's real lived life, but you're finding a new way to explain something that you feel. Now, that could be a good thing, but it can also be a really dangerous weapon. And you're seeing it a lot these days, whereas like people use it as an attacking weapon. The ideas of like, how would I word that? Because it's like people are so sensitive about everything now. It's like traumas and bad things that happen to people in life, like especially certain genders and certain races. We think like that's the most important thing right now that we need to discuss, and it's like maybe not, but at the end of the day, I mean, people have to do what they think they need to do. But it can be used negatively, and people could dislike you for whatever you say. And I mean, at the end, you shouldn't always care about what people think and say. But I think the best art doesn't seek things out to attack. I mean, I've never really envied any art that was trying to say something hurtful to another group of people. And that's all it is nowadays, hiding under the guise of, protection and trying to make a better world. And that's just bullshit. Besides all that shit, I think we can look at art, we'll go back to the subjectivity of it and finding meaning within your experience. You have a group of experiences and interests around you that have shaped the way you look at things. The books you've read, the movies you've watched, the games you've played, and the things that you've seen in real life have influenced you in every way possible, as much, like, just as equally important as your parents did with when you were a child, a baby up until you were like the age of rebellion. You shaped everything you know based around how they look at the world. And you yourself found ways to combat whatever you didn't like about, like, the ways they think or the ways they look at life or their fears and all that. You found a way to break free of it and create your own concept of it so you can move forward and upward. That's kind of like a natural thing that we go through with our families. It's only later in life that you kind of look back and realize that. And everything around you will influence you. And so when you're creating something, that will hit. Much like a dream, how like in a dream you don't... It feels like it's creating itself. It feels like it's just happening out of nowhere. But in reality, like everything in that dream is built upon something that really did happen in your life. Like a song in the dream, you heard that song recently. It doesn't just happen. You know what I mean? Or like something in the dream is telling you something about something the way you feel. You are your own wise mentor to tell you what you should do and what you shouldn't do. Your dream is just reiterating that. So everything around you will influence you in that. And it's kind of like, it can be debilitating when you're first doing art and you're first realizing all of those same old things. Like, man, I feel like the story's been done before. I feel like, this isn't good. Or I feel like everything about this screams that it's been influenced by whatever the hell it is. And there's nothing really wrong with that. It's just finding your own way to interpret that. Like, how do you look at all of that information around you that has shaped your consciousness? And what are you saying from that? What did you gather from all that information that you received? Everything that happened, all the things that you like. What are you saying about that? Like, what have you yourself taken from all of that? Self-reflection is the most important thing that people could do, and it's very rare that you see it done in ways where people try to bring themselves up. And this is going to sound very strange, but it's so very true. I live in a city right now. I grew up kind of in this area, on the outskirts of this city that I live in now. And now that I'm back as an adult, I moved back here about however many months ago it was now, almost half a year. And going around, driving, going to the stores, just being out in the general public in this city, it's a strange fucking place. Because there are so many people that are victimizing themselves every day. They're acting out like children. They're making their lives the most important lives. They are selfish, greedy. And I know that describes a lot of cities, but there's something strange about this one here where it's like been forgotten. It's been abandoned. Everyone here seems to be like lower intelligence levels. To have lower intelligence levels. They just seem like, it seems like a place that's like, it seems like it doesn't exist. Like, how could everyone in this town look like bad? They all have a low intelligence. They all have kind of very, very young emotional intelligence. Like, I'll watch grown-ass adults revert back to an 8-year-old in seconds about things and just flying off the handle because of something. And it's just like, I just look at it and it's like, this place is like, it almost doesn't feel real that it exists. It just feels so crazy to look at this town and no one, nobody dresses properly. Nobody, like, they just look dirty. There's horrible problems with meth and like whatever the fuck else, heroin out here, as far as I hear. It's so crazy. And I could paint, like, you could accept this if it was a huge city, but this is not a huge city. It's a small town that no one's probably ever heard of. You go to the library, which is what I always love to do. But like, my experience with the library is there's a collection of stinky homeless people all sitting on the computers, going on a Facebook account and making their lives better than it really is. I watch it happen. I see them doing it. They go from warm place to warm place to warm place during this time. And that's not a few of them. There's a fuck ton. You go to certain parks that were designed to have, for enjoyment. You walk around and the wildlife or whatever, and there's like a play toy for kids, or there's some shit. It's just an outside place for entertainment. And the collection of homeless people that are just littering those places. It makes you feel slightly unsafe because they're unsavory, And that's this whole town, and it's so crazy to look at and to be a part of. And it's just, you feel the lower IQ every time you're driving around, and how dumb people drive, and no one knows speed limits apparently, and like, everyone's self-centered. It's such a weird experience. And that right there, you see people. And for me, and this is where I'm going to get to the point, I saw all this stuff, and I grew up with it, and I left in my early 20s, and I came back at age 31, and I use it as how I view the world, and I see these people, and I just see them as forgotten people. Do you know what I mean? Such potential. This town stopped kind of really growing in the late 1800s probably, and obviously when a town stops growing, or a city, it's done for. And it will crumble. It has to continuously grow, or else nothing, it gets stagnant. And there's a giant Walmart, a giant Meijer. And from that, the town was ruined because of these things. Yes, that place gives a lot of jobs. There's thousands of people that work at the Walmart. Or the Meijer. I couldn't tell you how many, but there's enough. A bunch of factories around here, and it's just... And I listen to the conversations of these people, and it's not very much. Like, there's not a lot going on, and it like, maybe to them it's fine, but to me it makes me so sad to hear what people talk like. The little things that they discuss, and it's always like, you listen to the conversation, and what you glean from it is, I'm a victim, everyone's out to get me, and I need to defend myself better. And I mean, if you really pay attention, that's what it is, but it doesn't seem like that in that moment. But when you glean from it what's going on, that's all I hear. And no one takes care of their things. There's a lot of disgusting houses out here, vehicles that have mufflers that's dragging on the goddamn pavement, and it just feels like a place that has such a negative connotation of the human race. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but like sometimes I'm like, these people are not much smarter than monkeys. It seems like just the way they talk, and it seems like there's hopefully possible inbreeding and possible fucking, I don't want to say autism, but I don't know what it is, but it just seems like this shit, like you're speaking, but you're not saying much more than an animal would if you gave them a brain for a day. Like, it's crazy shit, man. And what that has done is influenced me in a way to rebel against it. So I don't consider myself intelligent in any way. You know, I don't have a big vocabulary, and I'm not an academic in any description. But growing up in an environment like that, it made me, again, talking about finding your own voice, finding your way through things, it made me want to try to be better. Like, seeing all that. And everyone out here is like, no one has money. And when they get their tax money, they either blow it on drugs or a big fucking TV for whatever reason. Like, just stupid shit. And I kind of come from that mentality. And I had to take that and stop it from happening and say, I'm going to be not that. Why would I continue to allow that to... I'm not defining that. Like, that will not be me. You know, a poor fucking nobody that no one gives a fuck about. Especially when you're white. No one gives a fuck. Especially nowadays. They will not give a flying fuck about that. It's kind of like that's your own fault kind of thing. And so I kind of walked away from that life and allowed myself to flourish because I gave myself a better chance. And for me, an escape through art of any description was how I got out of that. So that would be music, and storytelling would be my main two that really helped me kind of escape that horrible, this place, and I'm kind of back in it, is like an experience, but I've been able to escape it mentally because of art. Because music gave me the gift of imagining what a better life I could have, and like pretending to be someone I'm not. And that's what music did. I would listen to music and I would pretend like could be a musician. I could play music, and maybe one day I can do this and be impressive in this way or that way. And so music did that for me. Storytelling also helped me escape from horrible things in my life, just things that I've seen, and it allowed me to find a story to save a character, save myself from whatever is bothering the person. And that's kind of why we seek things out in art, I think, is because of that fact. And that's why, to me, making anything, you know, artistically isn't just something to look, this is a cool looking thing, this is a cool story, and isn't it brilliant how well the story was written, and it's fun to read, and it's so exciting and thrilling. Like, that's not what I'm chasing. Because I look out and my world has been shaped by being better than you should be. Someone, something, or whatever placed me in this city with people, around people that I don't even identify with, and I never did, and I always felt like an alien. I always felt like I was the stupidest one out of all of them, because I was questioning things differently, or I was looking at stuff differently, or I didn't feel like just obeying this and that. Like, I kind of felt like I was even dumber than them, and so that really influenced my mindset in life of like who I really am, and my low self-esteem because of the fact. But it kind of that was at that time, but as I look back now, it's like, you know, I definitely see that I was actively seeking to escape the situation. And how you're defined when you're placed in an environment you feel like nobody gives a fuck about you, right? You know, in this town, for instance, if you're having a hard time, if you don't have any money, then you're unhappy, and your marriage is based on bullshit, and you have kids you don't really want, or whatever the fuck it is. In this town, it's just like, oh, you same, yeah, everyone's like that here. But we got our sports and we got our beer, you know, and that's it. It's just horrible. And you can be placed in that environment that you do not identify with. And it just makes you feel so, like, helpless, you know, and so lost. And you can just stay with that and identify with that. You know what I mean? Like, I am that loss. I am that helplessness. I need people to, you know, say this about me, like, you can victimize yourself, much like, you know, when you look at cultures and talking about the ghetto all the time. You know what I mean? You could easily victimize yourself and stay in that mindset. Yeah, you were born in it. Yeah, like that was your life, but you can choose elsewhere. It's just that's too hard, too scary, so a lot of people don't. It's easy to blame. It's harder to change. So there are ways that society can shape the way you look at the world, but that doesn't define exactly where you sit in the world. And basically, to round it out, the art that you ingest helps you kind of escape that place and find some sort of utopia, or I think it was Joseph Campbell would say, a bliss within yourself, some sort of happiness. And the person that finds that happiness or finds that art that makes them happy wants to create their own, which is kind of the point. And so thusly they have to borrow from it all. You know, like my outlook on life, if you read the books, you can definitely see a negative connotation to it. A negative view of the world. I mean, the world is a beautiful, gorgeous place, you know, visually and all that. But then you read it, you would think like, fuck, dude, like this is a horrible place. This is horrible. Nothing good is here. Like nothing good. It's all bad. And it's just like, that's the viewpoint. But then you look at other things artistically and you say like, wow, that really reminds me of, you know, Celtic mythology. Or this reminds me a lot of fucking cyberpunk or something. You know what I mean? Like whatever it is, you can see where the escapism came from and how it kind of influenced the person that created it. And that's why I think it's totally okay when you are making your art to explore the things that you like and borrow from things. Yeah, there's a famous, not really famous, but there's a thing that I've heard, like, because my favorite sport's hockey, and the one thing I used to always hear is if you aren't cheating, you aren't trying. And I always took that with everything. You know what I mean? If you're not trying, if you're not trying to take from things or borrow from things, like the flattery element of that all. And it's so true. Like you have to make your own world based on other people's viewpoints of it, you know? We're beings with a consciousness. Of course, everything you think and see and feel is influenced by everyone else. Why wouldn't it be? You're not living in a stagnant world where you're alone and everyone's just an NPC. That doesn't exist. Like, we're all living an experience. So you're always going to borrow from other people. You're always going to take ideas. And you're always going to, I mean, you could say steal in some art forms. Like, comedians are really weird about that shit. Stealing material and all that. Like, everyone can observe things. But yeah, like, that's the main point I wanted to make with this, apparently, would be the idea of creative, like the process of it, the creative process, and borrowing and influence and kind of your viewpoint in the world and how it shapes everything. It's a very, very tough road to go down. And it's a dangerous one, it feels like, too, because, I mean, if you just go on YouTube, the big things that'll always pop out is other people talking about someone else's stuff. Reviewing video games, talking about the lore of someone else's world, complaining about other people's lives. There's this, I heard someone that was listening to a YouTube channel where this person was talking in depth about someone else's spiritual experience, the Mormon thing, and kind of casting a dark light because of their shit. Like, the world is full of people that want to talk down or steal from or react to, like people react to music, like someone else's art, someone else's life, and someone else's understanding. People want to judge, take part of, or milk from what they can. That's the whole world, and that's an easy thing to watch. That's why those people have a lot of views and shit. You know, like, I think it's kind of fucked up, honestly. You know what I mean? I'd find it very strange if I made this book, published it, and things happened, right? And there was channels devoted to people talking about it so in depth, in a negative light. You know what I mean? Trying to expose something grotesque. Like, I think that's very strange. Or people, like, basically they're making money off of you in a very weird way. Like, no, I'm talking about it. I'm enjoying this world. I'm promoting it. Like, you could be, but at the same time, you shouldn't be getting paid for that. That's weird to me. That's why I never really went a part of it where it's, you know, like a channel devoted to the Star Wars lore or something. Like, something I really like. But I could never make money off of that. That's not mine. You know, I do enjoy it, and I do like the things about it, but I'm not going to make money off of it. From the level of a YouTuber all the way to Disney. Like, it's disgusting. It really is. Like, milking it. Like it's a dying animal laying on a table and you're just sucking as much as you can possibly get out of it. That's what it is. And, you know, I just think that that's a horrible thing to do. But that's how people are, man. They take the easy road. It's easier to talk about a sports team. It's easier to talk about fucking this video game. It's already been made. You just gotta have an opinion about it. And like sit down and go into detail of why this is not good and why that's not good and why this is good. Like, that's the easiest road you could have. Being a critic. Critics barely, I mean, you just gotta have opinions. You gotta base it upon concepts and ideas of what the general public likes and what you like, and there's a whole way to do it, and I just don't like it. It's a turnoff, you know? I think taking a chance to yourself is making your own thing. Okay, you don't like it? Well, then you fucking make one, you know? Or like, you can fucking try to do this. You can like something. You can talk about liking something. I just think it's odd to make money off of talking about something that you like. I mean, that's just personal opinions, you know? There's just something doesn't feel right about it. Something seems off. That's just human nature, man. It's the easy road. I think it's okay, though, to try to do something yourself. And like, people have a really weird concept about life where it's like, if you're gonna do it, you gotta make it really big and you gotta get really famous and you gotta get a lot of money from it, and everyone gets to look at you and everyone can be like, people think that the whole world is about being happy, and I find that so very strange. Like, happiness can exist and it should exist, of course, but your goal should not be to just find ultimate happiness. That doesn't make any sense, because it's like you don't even know what anything else is now. You've only been chasing good, and so now you don't even know how to identify bad. You don't even have never explored it. So how does bad make you? Are you an addictive person so you can learn how to navigate roads of bad? in unhappiness and sadness and grief and sorrow. You've explored those, so you know not to become an addict of some description, or you know how to avoid situations. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why people think it's just about happiness. It's about achievement. It's about making money. It's about just getting that house finally, like being happy. Like, there's no such thing. You know what I mean? Like, of a pure happiness does not exist. You know, like, we live in a duality. We live in, or at least mentally, like the way our minds work. We always have a good and evil, you know, a happy, sad. You know what I mean? Like, we live in our minds as a duality. You can't really help it. Is it truly like that in this world? Who knows? You know, it's just the way we do things. You know, we always break things apart, like race wars, like white versus black, or like science versus religion, or fucking man versus woman. What's better, this or that? Like, we just do that. It's just kind of innate in us. For whatever reason. I don't know why it's like that, but that's what it is. And if that's the case, if that's the way we want to, you know, look at things, well, then why the fuck would you chase happiness? You're inviting sadness now. You know what I mean? Like, you're inviting it to destroy your happiness. I think finding the causeway, you know, finding the middle, is the ultimate, for me at least, the ultimate way to be. Because, you know, I like to be happy as anyone else. But I'm not afraid to be sad. I don't see that as a horrible thing. It doesn't feel good. It's not a great time. You know what I mean? But I'm not afraid to be upset. I'm not afraid to be sad or afraid. It's okay. You know what I mean? It's fine. It can help you. It's a tool. It'll allow you to learn something about yourself, to glean information. Well, I guess I don't like that. You know what I mean? It's something simple as that. It's a very valuable tool to have. To be upset by things. To cry. For things to make you feel. You know? I don't know why we wouldn't want that. Why do we... No. I'll take medication so I don't feel that way. And I'm going to continue to do this life that I hate. Like, that's very strange. You know? Everything around you will influence you as an artist, and you have to be ready for that. And myself, I don't really like considering myself an artist, but it's almost inevitable to agree upon that. Because of the fucking room I'm sitting in. I mean, look at this shit. I made all this stuff. It's weird. So, negative influence is just as important as positive influence. Meaning, the things that you love artistically, the things that you enjoy, are just as important as the things that you run from. And it all creates who you are as a person. You can deny it, or you can just pretend, like, ignore it. You can do that all you want, but it's still going to be there. You know, you've still been burned no matter what. I don't believe in that. I never burned anything. Like, you have a burn in your hand. Like, it doesn't matter what you think or don't think. It happened. It's all about how you determine what the next action will be. And I think that's that. We riffed something. So, I don't know exactly what this will be about. What did I even talk about? I don't know how to explain this, so I will just say it this way, is a lot of my life is, I don't feel like I'm in control a lot. It feels like, in moments like what I was just doing there, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about either sometimes. I believe it. It's all true. It's coming from me, but I don't feel like I'm saying all that. I feel like I'm a conduit of some description of, like, information's passing through me, and I'm just pushing it out into the world. And my filter is my understanding, so I can misinterpret, or I can missay, or hyper focus on the wrong things, but sometimes it just feels like information's passing through me and I'm just kind of cycling it out. So I'll come out of it and be like, fuck, that's cool. I didn't know all that stuff either. You know, like, I'm learning. And I think that's the whole point of art. Is to interpret whatever that fucking thing is that's passing through you. You know, whatever that thing is that you have it, like Mozart. You think about that, like you just have a fucking gift, man. Like you can just do whatever it is. Like, man, I can just draw. Some people are like that, or paint. They can just like lifelike fucking paintings. That's something else, man, passing through you, and you're just like an athlete. You just have to prepare your body by being ready for it. So for instance, if it's writing stuff, like you need to work on your English, you need to work on how to speak properly, how to enunciate, and how to articulate. You know, if the God thing's passing through you and you're an artist, you need to understand colors, you need to understand how things lay on paper, and you know what I mean? There's a thing to learn of each art form. You have to be ready by honing the skill of that thing, so when it passes through you, it comes through you as almost unfiltered as possible. For me, constant struggle, because I don't try. You know, I just hang out and then I interpret this shit and push it out, and then I'm just like, that. And then that's that. And that's kind of who I am as a person. So I have no clue what I'll call this. I'll have to watch it again and see, because I don't even know. But it's like I don't even know how long this was. I would say it was short, but I mean, it might not. It might be 50-something minutes again, as usual. I don't know. But kind of wanted to talk a little bit about how art can be influenced by things, and how, whether it's big or small, and how art can be our viewpoint into how we are, and what the human experience is based on what your experience was. You know, people will relate to that. A lot of people like Stephen King, man. And he's got something dark going on in his mind. Something that makes him see the world that way. And a lot of people identify with it. So, you know, it's okay. You know, my shit's not really the greatest, like, in happy-wise, I should say. Like, it's not really... No one's really that happy in my work either, so you just gotta kind of accept that. That's how you view the world, based on your life, and you just gotta kind of go with that and explore it as deeply as you possibly can and find an outcome. Maybe that'll do something. But yeah, there we go. Another video done. We did it. Couple of these guys hanging out, and we put them over in the wall. Now they're just sitting there watching us. What does that mean? I don't know, Grandpa. But you need to go lay back down.